I'm going to send you an invite to do the collab thing. Because we are living in America. Yes. Cool. Yes, indeed.
Huh?
Hi, Kevin. I'm your biggest fan.
Figured that's the best way to just jump right into it. Hello, everybody. We are back. We don't even have a name for the show, but we are here. Very well, not surprising night, at least for me.
Yeah.
Not so surprising, but surprising for a lot of people. Somewhat understandable. I'm not going to be that smug and be like, "Well, I knew and you didn't." Well, it's look. A lot of people had really high hopes. What was some of your first reaction finding out today when you woke up, Jimmy, that Trump had won?
Um, Shock, disbelief. Uh, I still haven't fully processed it in my brain yet. It still almost doesn't feel like it's happened and it doesn't feel real yet. I'm pretty sure it's gonna hit me eventually, but yeah, I'm still kind of in shock. How are you?
Um, honestly, I am doing okay. I'm
Says the white
especially
man.
considered. Yeah, yeah. It says the white guy. Oh God, are you gonna turn into a fucking Kamala Harris staffer? Is that what's gonna happen?
Mm. Look, we're all just, coconuts from trees and shit, so you never know.
You nerds. What's going on, Earl? Welcome, welcome. No, I think overall it was about as expected. I'm not, you know, running running for the cliffs or anything like that. And obviously that comes with a little bit of privilege. Um, but I think ultimately my reaction is like, okay, this is what I expected to happen. Now I'm just kind of wondering how the reaction is going to be. Obviously, we're going to go over some of the reactions that we saw from liberals on mainstream media and different outlets of the like. But I wonder now that Trump is in office if they're going to go back to the 2020 campaign style of being so anti-Trump that anything that is his policy, you'd be against it. And if that's the case, we might actually see Democrats begin to stand up for, Palestinians, for example.
Right, but it's all gonna be in vain and virtue signaling because they're gonna do it while also knowing that nothing's gonna change.
Pardon, can you say that one more time?
I said they're all gonna do it like as virtue signaling, and it's mainly gonna be in vain though because they know that no, for the public it's gonna look good that they're fighting for Palestine as an example, but it would be virtue signaling because we already know, at least the people who know that nothing's actually gonna change.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, obviously, they would just be using the situations as political pawns for sure.
Right.
But the key thing is though, they would at least offer that messaging that people can uh, vote towards, right? It's a lot harder to vote for somebody that just completely ignores it or agrees with the other side. When you have a candidate where you can say to door knockers like, oh, if somebody says about immigration, you can say that we want to expand programs like DACA, we want to expand access in ways that people can migrate here in legal matters. We want to take it from being 10 years that you have to wait to get your citizenship. We want to cut that down. We want to create more jobs to allow better processing for people that are seeking asylum into our country. Like, that's what people want to be able to say, but they weren't able to say it this time around. And that was one of many key reasons that Kamala Harris lost last night.
Right. Absolutely.
Before going into it any further, we got a couple people popping up in chat. Lalani92, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. Earl, just wanted to stop by and say hello. I appreciate it, Earl. Hope you're doing well. Miss you, bud. How the heck was I not following? It's right. Honestly, sometimes with Twitch, you think you follow someone or you even click on the button, and sometimes Twitch just unfollows people for whatever reason. And we're sharing chats, aren't we?
Yep.
Is anybody in yours?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Lurkers.
Bunch of lurkers.
Larks.
All right. So with that being said, we're going to launch a video and trigger warning: Mitch McConnell, turkey gizzard neck. This is what we're going to be having fun with today. But yeah, this is a video of Mitch McConnell being very fucking happy because not only do we see Donald Trump win both the popular vote and the electoral vote. God, that's just so fucking sad and depressing.
Can you stream it in the Discord so I can share it too?
I can try to. Yeah, hold on. Let's see. Share screen. Mitch McConnell.
Thank you.
Cool. Let me know if it's working for you.
Yep.
All right. But yeah, as I was saying, Mitch McConnell's not just happy about a Trump presidency coming into effect, but he's also very happy because the Senate is now in Republican majority control. And it's looking like the House is going to be the same way. There were some gubernatorial races that also flipped red. But let's hear what old Turkey Neck has to say.
A happy day for the GOP. And let me start by congratulating President Trump, what he's accomplished.
Just going to quickly say, is he going to have another stinky moment where he shits his fucking pants and stares off like it's Get Out?
It's not been done, as all of you know, since Grover Cleveland, which was a while back. I also want to commend the Trump campaign.
You look at his neck jiggle.
A sharper operation this time. With regard
He looks like a
to
turtle.
the Senate, you guys know how long I've been around. I had really hoped I'd be able to hand over to my successor.
This dude is so old that he was there when they invented races.
I've been the majority leader.
I've never seen him so lively. They must have given him
Majority's a lot
extra
better.
baby blood this morning.
Yeah,
And I
drain the
think-
chrome.
Yup.
Nom.
Based on
He never
that
is
we
this
haven't
lively.
done-
Order
ever.
some more pizza,
results,
Mitch
then we
McConnell. Pizza,
certainly already know
extra
we're
stuffed
gonna be in
crust,
the
pepperoni.
majority.
Hot dogs. Don't forget the
We're
hot
hopeful
dogs.
That might
Yeah,
actually
Kool-Aid.
grow some. I had that job at the NRSC a few years back.
Okay, you're fucking boring me now.
I've
Shut up,
never
Mitch
seen
McConnell,
a better-
turkey gizzard. But yeah, so as you can see, Republicans are happy. They're fucking ecstatic. They got their boy back. They couldn't be any happier. And speaking of pieces of shit being happy about the current election status, we can see what Zionists are saying about what happened.
Oh, this is good. Oh,
He would be someone that could take care of business, so to speak, as opposed to someone of Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. Okay, first of all, motherfucker, you're an Israeli American, so you're probably from like New York or New Jersey, and you just wanted to go there because you wanted to take fucking homes for free, you piece of shit.
wow.
Sorry.
Still, being that she is associated with President Biden, no disrespect, but I feel that the country has not gone in the correct direction with President Biden's term.
אנחנו זכינו היום בניצחון של טראמפ. זה ניצחון לכל עם אמריקאי, לכל עם ישראל, וזה ניצחון שהוא מוחק כל מילה אנטישמית בעולם. שיהיה לו בהצלחה כל טוב. אנחנו אוהבים אותו, כל הכבוד לו.
Bro, How old is that lady, bro? Hold on, let's go back for a second. How old are you? Die already, please. You're barely hanging on. Just
Mhm.
fucking just go. But you see, this is the reason I wanted to share this video, because we kept hearing about how Donald Trump had propped himself up as being this peaceful dove candidate. He was the guy that was going to come in and bring stability. He was going to end the war in Gaza. He's going to end the war in Ukraine. He's going to do everything and save everybody and be the best, right? That's what he's been campaigning on. But no, even this old fucking piece of prune understands that Trump becoming president and having control means that Israel can go even further now in their genocide and not even have to try to be, well, they're not even cryptic about it anymore, but they don't even have to hide it. They're going to broadcast it. They're going to make fucking movies and shit out of it.
Yeah.
He gets it. A lot of people that were telling Kamala Harris to fucking be a little bit more strong towards Israel, we knew it.
Yeah.
Fucking frustrating.
Ugh.
That clap. Oh my god.
I
Yep.
work in crypto, so it's very good for the crypto
Oh
industry.
god, a
and I
crypto
think
dude. I bet you the guy's
election
never
as a
seen
whole,
pussy
and
in
I
his
think for
life besides on the
Israel,
screen. Just look at him.
probably
He's
Trump was the
greasy.
better
You
candidate.
greasy,
אני
ugly
חושב שהרבה
fuck.
אנשים פה בארץ שמחים שטראמפ ניצח מבחינת ביטחון, אבל בסך הכל אני מאמין ששניהם כאילו טובים לנו. אנחנו פחות צריכים להיות בפוליטיקה הזאת, אבל אני מאמין שטראמפ ייתן לנו יותר בראש.
He thinks Trump's gonna be harder on them. Yeah, right.
Oh, and obviously, I'll put a pause on this. Was there anything in particular that you wanted to add on what we had just seen, or anything we've talked about in the past 10 minutes?
No, go for it.
Okay. So while elections were going on, speak of the devil, Zionists were continuing their war efforts on Lebanon, on the Palestinians, and now Iran as well. And this is the aftermath of a missile strike that killed at least 30. So here we are.
شي سحب هيك سحب وطلع الانفجار ما عاد نشوف الدخان قاعد بدنا نصرخ جوا صرخ شلتهم عليت البطون مبينين جوا وعليت هذا وشلتهم
يا حبيبي أنا كنت بالشغل عائلتي كانت حالها بالبيت لما فلت من هون ما كان فيش وضع طبيعي وقاعدين وغدينا وفلينا رجع وصلت على الساعة 8:30 بدق لي مرتي بجنني ضربوا البناية ونزلت البناية وفي قتلى وجرحى كتير
Right. You notice how the elections are going on and we don't see this shit anymore at all?
Yeah, the coverage of what's been going on definitely died down.
Yep.
Welcome back.
And that's without secret, right? Like
Right.
it's specifically done that way, because they sure wanted to make a point of it leading up to the election, and then obviously the very moment that the election starts to happen, it's or right before, I think it was like 3 or 4 days before the election, they stopped talking specifically about Israeli actions, whether it be dropping bombs on women, children, or humanitarian aid workers, or killing American citizens.
Yep.
All the fun stuff that they do.
Yeah. I mean, hey, at least we got a fucking year of people paying attention to it. That's longer than most viral, quote unquote, things that go around this fucking country that people pay attention to. But yeah, no, that
Well,
sucks. We're going back to them doing what they've always been doing, and we're not paying attention to it again.
no, and that actually brings up a really good point, because I was thinking about this, especially with the election last night and looking at some of the demographics for voter turnout. My question: do you kind of believe some of the shit that gets put on Twitter about how now specifically the protests aren't happening at college campuses anymore just because we don't see them on coverage, or do you still think that they're happening?
I still think they're happening. I just don't think we're covering it anymore.
covering it. No, 100%. Okay. I was just wondering because it's something that I do kind of want to ask a majority of people. So if there's anybody in chat, if you would like to add what you think, that would be great. Just because the mere fact that with with a lot of specifically American voters, it's a very much out of sight, out of mind type thing, right?
Yep.
Everybody, when they vote, it's ultimately of what's in their best interest, and if it's something that they don't think about or something that doesn't impact them directly, it's something that they're not aware of or they're ignorant to in any level or any case. All right, so I think
Out.
it's
Yep.
quite easy or quite simple to know that. I kind of lost my train of thought because somebody hopped in. Is if somebody joined, I'm sorry, we're kind of doing a show at the
Oh,
moment.
yeah, we're streaming, Kevin. Sorry. I texted you. Thank you. All right, he's muted. You're good.
No, no, no. You're right. Somebody just popped up in chat. Oh, Princess Kayla.
Yeah, y'all Democrats here in Georgia are calling on our state Democratic Party chair to resign as party chair.
But I thought Stacey Abrams always delivers.
Ooh. She's another shit lib too, right?
Yes, 100%. She,
She
you
goes
know
around as
what?
a progressive though.
Tries to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
who's your state party chair, Kayla? Happening but less often and many less speakers this cycle. Congresswoman Namika Williams, the Democrat. Is it Democrat? Yeah. And
Happening but
that's
less often and many less speakers this cycle. Yeah. DPG chairwoman. Oh, shit. Hit the wrong buttons.
Democratic Party of Georgia. Okay. Namika Williams. Why are they asking her to resign? That's interesting. I knew Georgia would pop off. Uh,
Okay, so I just want to bring this up to kind of tie back. Sorry about losing my train of thought.
no,
That
you're good.
threw me off when somebody joined. So basically, Democrats lost the Senate, lost the White House, and probably lose the House too. Election should have been a landslide. Would have been had the Democrats actually offered the American people something besides Trump bad. And that's a take that I do not disagree with at all. Um, again, you have Donald Trump, who, even though the way that he responds to things like economic impact towards people, even though those things may be false, might be full of shit, and he might not even genuinely care, he at least speaks up to it. When in turn you have a candidate like Kamala Harris who's going to turn around and try to tell you the old tired Democratic line, well, the economy is as strong as it's ever been, right? Like that's something that we hear from Democrats time and time and time again. The economy is as strong as it's ever been. And that kind of messaging doesn't really play so much anymore because people are finally starting to wake up to the idea that when these politicians say things like, oh, the economy, they're not talking about your bank account, your wallet, your purse. They're talking about Wall Street. And we talked about it last night during the election coverage. You see all of these corporations who are making record profits while getting subsidies and getting tax breaks and using that to turn around and do stock buybacks,
But then we got the
which
media literally this morning on the news saying Tesla stocks went up and the value of the dollar went up. And so stocks are rising. Let's see how that helps in your pocketbook. Like, yo, the stock market is not the economy. Like that's what people don't understand. They hear stock market and they think that's our economy, but it's not.
no, not at all.
I have a constant fight with people about that all the fucking time. Like funding and then taxation, subsidies, bonds, grants, loans. That's what funds our economy. That's our system. Fucking
No.
stocks are not our system. It's not our economy.
So I want to share this or watch this video really quick with you. It's by Richard Wolff.
Okay.
And people can say what they want to about Richard Wolff, but when it comes to some of his economic stuff that he messages on,
Yeah, between him and
he,
Noam Chomsky, nobody could ever talk down about them to me.
yeah, no, I fucking yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you feel the same way.
Yeah,
But yeah,
they're my
here we
I
go.
heroes.
want to turn next to stock buybacks. I want to make sure everyone
Yeah.
understands it, because
Fuck,
if you
Richard Wolff
do,
on
it
stock
gives you a
buybacks. I'm in
window
heaven.
into another aspect of capitalism that will make you critical. Trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars are spent in the United States, probably every year, but certainly every other year, if you put 2 years together, on buying back stock. What does that mean? It means take a company, I'll pick one, General Motors. The board of directors, those 15 or so people that make all these kinds of decisions and allow no one else, by the way, to do so, the board of directors decides to take a chunk of its profits, not invest them in a better car, not hire anybody, none of that, but instead to use billions of dollars from their profits to go into the stock market and buy shares of their own company, General Motors shares. Perhaps shares owned by your grandmother, perhaps shares owned by your bank, the usual. Why would they do that? Because the company, by bringing in big purchase orders for General Motors shares, will drive up the price of General Motors shares on the stock market. And you know who that's going to make happy? All the shareholders, all the people who own shares of General Motors, seeing its price go up, will get big smiles. As I've told you many times, 10% of the people in this country, the richest 10%, own 80% of the shares. So if you do stock buyback, the biggest beneficiary are the shareholders. How quaint. You know who's among the top 10% of our people? The members of the board of directors of General Motors who make the decision. So when they raise the price of the shares, they are helping themselves as shareholders. But it's worse. For many top executives, their pay package is dependent on how well the stock does. So if the stock goes up, they get more salary. So there's another incentive. And what have they done with this incentive? They've taken it a step further. In recent years, more and more large corporations are borrowing money to buy back their own shares. In other words, they're loading up their company with debt. They don't care after a few years, they won't be the chief executive of that
And
company.
that's the thing. That's the craziest fucking part about it. That's what's crazy because people will still try to defend this. But what he's saying is right. Like when you do stock buybacks, all you're doing is inflating numbers for an eventual collapse because the more money you pump into it to say that you have more money, eventually the money's going to run out.
Yep.
And you're going to have to pay up on that.
Yep.
And what happens? They fucking fall into bankruptcy. And you know what happens every single time that they've done that throughout history? The United States government, the same government that those board of executives will campaign around and speak at rallies talking about, you know, the United States government isn't fair to corporations, da 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 da. They'll sit there and say, hey, man, we really need this like $40 billion bailout. Could you please hook us up? Pretty please. We promise we're going to make sure that everybody gets paid. And then every single sitting United States president's like, okay, I'll give you the money. And then they give it to them, and then they fire people and do stock buybacks every single time.
Yep.
Every single time.
Every time.
And they'll go on and up the chain or retire. They're loading up the company with debt to drive up the price, which gives them a bigger salary and a bigger wealth because they own such shares. And by the way, who produced the profit that the company had? Of course, all the people who work at General Motors. All of them. But the vast majority of them have nothing to say about what is done with the profits. They wouldn't use them to boost the share prices because they don't own any shares and their wages are not dependent on the value of the shares. That's just the top. They're taking care of themselves, in short. The job of the mass of the people is to come to work, do the work, produce the goods, generate the profits, and then shut up so that the tiny group at the top, the executives at the top, the major shareholders, can use that money to buy back their shares in the stock market and boost their wealth and boost their income. What a system. It's the most undemocratic imaginable.
Yep.
All the other things the corporation could and should do. Remember the next time a corporate executive refers to himself or herself as a job creator.
I knew he was gonna say that.
Buying
Oh,
back your shares creates no jobs
nope.
at all.
Nope.
Fucking spit, my king. Spit.
For real.
Fucking hack tuh on the
Right.
motherfuckers. You understand me?
Just fucking keep cooking, boy. Ugh.
No, is there
Jesus.
anything else that you wanted to add? I got to have my rant for the video.
No, you guys say everything that yeah, you guys are perfect. Jesus Christ, Kayla. Kayla's up in here doing sounds in my chat. It is distracting me.
Hello, Kensai. Welcome. Howdy doody, Kensai. But yeah, so the reason that we um, had brought that up to kind of tail it back a little bit and bring it back to the results of the election is because
Yes.
regardless of who would have won last night, the issue with stock buybacks, the issue with the economy, the stock market, it would have remained the same. People who are making the most money are going to keep most of their money. Meanwhile, the people who are struggling, i.e., Jimmy, myself, Taco, Kayla, Kensai, the average person, we are going to have to be paying more, whether it's presented to us in a sales tax, whether it's presented as a federal tax, whatever it may be, however
Yep.
it's going to come, because the Trump tariff plan. And that's something that I think maybe would be a good thing to jump into next, is kind of focusing on the aspect of why Kamala Harris lost from like an economic standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to say about that
well,
before we get into.
yeah. So the thing is I was talking about this today too. Is like people need to keep an eye or an ear out for the terms that Trump is going to be using as well in the next few years. Job creator, like what Richard Wolff said, because like what Richard Wolff said at the end right there, these multimillionaire corporate CEOs and the boards and more board members are they're not creating jobs, because here's proof right there that any kind of uh, uh, tax cut or injection of money just goes right back into themselves for stock buybacks. So just keep an eye out, because this happens every time a Republican comes into office. You hear Republicans talking about this. They say that they want a Republican in office because the economy gets better. But this is exactly what they're doing, is that Trump is going to give these corporations tax cuts, but he's going to tell us that it's for small business owners that are job creators, and it's not going to be for them. It's going to be for the big guys. Now, the thing
Stop
is,
scrolling if your smile.
whoa, the thing is that yes, they're going to get tax cuts. Yes, it's going to keep money into the economy for a little bit, but you have to remember is that we have to pay those taxes in a couple of years after that. And that's when a Democrat, most likely, because we keep going back and forth, is going to be in office, and then everybody's going to be fucking poor. We're going to have higher taxes again. So just keep your ear out for this tax cut job creator thing, because it's just I've just seen this cycle, at least in my lifetime, since Bush. Uh, and I'm sick of it. It just seems like the Republicans give the tax cuts, and then the Democrats have to increase taxes to help pay all that shit off. And everybody falls into this cycle every year and falls for it. So just keep your eye out. It's super frustrating. That's it.
And no. That's actually a really good point because it is important to keep in mind some of the language, especially the language that people who are on the right who use economic populism engage with. Uh, Trump's first term, he had those tax cuts, and everybody was really excited about them. But different economists were coming out and talking about the fact that anybody who made under, I think it was $120,000, uh, their taxes would sunset, which essentially each fiscal year you would have to be paying more into taxes, right? Because I can't remember the exact percentage that he gave in those first in the first year or two of him being in office, but it was a pretty high percentage, and people were really excited about the money that they got back. And he was smart because he understood people like that. Like my dad to this day still talks about that fucking, what was it, $200 or $300 check that George Bush had sent everybody.
Hmm.
He still talks about it. So when you put money into people's pockets directly, people remember that. And that's what Donald Trump did with his tax policy. He ensured that he could keep people who were below the upper tax brackets happy with getting a bit of a break, but they would be eclipsing as to where the tax benefits that were for people who made above, I think it was like, 120, 140,000, those would never eclipse. Those would just be concrete and stay the same.
Forever, right? Yeah. Yep.
So what I heard is sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna read it. Go for it.
So what I heard is Mr. Wig is going to increase import taxes. Yeah, he's presenting it, and he's using the word tariff because let's just be very honest, the majority of Trump supporters, not all of them, but the majority of them are fucking stupid and they don't know what anything means. They just hear people say words and then they repeat it. And he talks about, tariffs are just the greatest thing, they're the best thing ever. And people don't understand that when you do have tariffs, it's not the, country or nation that is exporting, it's the country that is importing that has to foot the bill, because that's how fucking tariffs work. And people aren't realizing that, and if they do realize it, and we watched a video last night about it.
I was just gonna say
they have denial, and they say, oh well, the cost isn't going to be passed off to the consumer, it's going to be passed off to the company. The company is going to be footing the bill. They're not going to make us pay more, they're going to be paying more, not understanding that the system that we all live under is one that is all about maximizing your profits. And if you have to pay more for a good to import it before you even sell it, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna pass it off to the customer.
Exactly. Donald Trump is speaking right now. At the moment, we got that going on in the background. Do you want me to put the audio on?
Hell yeah.
Bet.
Nicole made the ultimate sacrifice during the disastrous withdrawal. Not that we were withdrawing. I was going to
Afghanistan already? Bro,
dignity,
it's still November.
and strength and power, and we were going to keep Bagram, the big air base, because of the fact that it was so close to.
No, he's going on his fucking Wham tour.
Mm-hmm.
We should have kept it.
Dude, and he's using the wife of somebody who died and having her parade up there. That's kind of cool.
The way they withdrew, they took the soldiers.
And by cool, I mean
out
really
first, and
fucking
they take the
morbid.
soldiers out last.
So
They went
nice.
18 months
I know your husband died defending our country, but what I'm gonna need is for you to be a political pawn. Would you mind standing next to me? Great job, doing fine. Gonna be a star.
Guys like Milley should have been fired. They should have been fired. Anybody that was involved.
Yeah, he's gonna go on his hell-bent tour though. Like anybody in the military that didn't fucking listen to him or fucked with Biden, he's gonna get rid of them, replace them. I mean, he even admitted himself, right? Like I want generals like Hitler had.
Yep.
Which is stupid because they all tried killing him.
Yep.
If you like history, you might want to remember that part about Hitler's generals. They all tried killing him eventually.
Shh, don't tell him.
Yeah, no. Spoiler alert, dude. Fuck.
When Biden made a decision, she said she was there. Oh, she was there. But the Afghanistan decision was a disaster in so many different ways. And now
Oh
you
my
take a
God,
look at
the
it, they're right
Afghanistan
back to what they
disaster
were
is one
doing
that you
before, but
manufactured, you
much
fucking
worse for
moron. You
women, much worse for
negotiated the
women right now
deal.
than they were even before it started.
God.
But Kamala
Like, how
never
are you
reached
gonna
out
say
to
that it's a
the
failure
family
when it was
members
your
of the
baby? It
warriors.
was your
Right.
thing.
And
Right.
she said she was going to, but she never did. She never called anybody. And Christy, I'd like you to come up and say a few words, please.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Christy Shamblin, and my daughter-in-law was Sergeant Nicole Leanne G., and she was killed in the botched Afghanistan exit at Abbey Gate. She was the cornerstone of a very large family. And instead of planning family gatherings and holiday meals and Christmases and baby showers, our family and thousands of other families.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna turn this off
Wow.
for a second because that's just like that's just I'm
Hmm.
like he's literally doing like kick streamer type content where he's like, "Hey, I know that you have like really large amounts of trauma and you're still struggling with it. Can I record you and exploit that?"
Yep.
That's fucking disgusting. I'm
That's
sorry.
fucking
I had to turn
crazy.
that off. I usually try not to be like all lipped up like that, but that's like stuff like that just it gets to me for whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Um
Because he's using people's actual trauma and lives as his own pawn to make people like him and respect him or look at him in a different light. It's disgusting that they're using her like that.
well,
For the issue of getting out of Afghanistan. Like that's the horrible part. You're not
yeah.
respecting her or the dead. You're complaining about Afghanistan.
Well, and for me too, I think it's his way of being able to like present himself as the peaceful dove option while also maintaining this heroic image, like 80s action movie star that his followers have built up for him, right?
Okay. Oh
You
yeah,
know,
peaceful
he's a tough
peaceful
guy.
dove option. Yeah, like getting or keeping us inside of Afghanistan, which we've been there for fucking 20 years as it is. Nah, I'm
Yeah.
peaceful my ass.
Yeah. Peaceful dove. What a
Hmm.
dove. What a great guy. When I go to heaven, they're gonna go, oh boy. He's finally here. We got the good ones.
Oh my God.
So I have another video that started up. Unless is there anything else that you wanted to add on to that?
Nope, I'm ready. Let's roll.
Cool, because I want to jump into my next subject I was thinking about, and this has really been bothering me. Here's the blame game. I was watching a couple clips earlier this morning and throughout the day. You know, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, the like, and just trying to listen to see exactly who they were blaming, right? Because Jimmy even brought it up last night during the election coverage of, you know, who are they going to blame this time? Is it going to be Joe Stein voters? Is it going to be, you know, Cornel West voters? Or, you know, the 5 people that voted for Cenk Uygur? Um, who could it be?
Right.
Did I just hear somebody else? No.
No, you're good.
Okay. We's good. I'm getting all paranoid now and shit.
Yeah, that's somebody's gonna hop
But
in.
yeah, so no, for real, because I have my streamer mode on. So it's just been really interesting to see exactly who they've been thrown under the bus, and honestly, I'm not really expected by who. But this was a Fox clip that was just kind of highlighting some of the blame that the Harris campaign has begun spinning out.
Decision desks projecting Donald Trump has defeated Vice President Kamala Harris and will become the 47th president. Trump winning the key battleground states of North Carolina, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. He also could win the popular vote, something a Republican has not done in 20 years. Here's what President Trump had to say in his victory speech earlier this morning.
This was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. It's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to fix everything about our country, and we made history for a reason tonight.
Kamala Harris has not spoken yet. Instead, she plans to address voters today. We are told she has yet to concede. Joining me now is pollster and WPA Intelligence founder Chris Wilson and Democrat consultant and former House Judiciary Committee Chief Counsel Julian Epstein. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Thank you so much for being here.
Yo,
Chris,
what an
talk to us about the
unfortunate
results,
last
how they
name.
compared to the polling. What are your observations?
Well, I know a
think it's
guy named
pivotal
Jeff
moment,
Epstein,
not
legit.
just because Donald Trump reclaimed the White House, but also because, as you said, he's going to win the popular vote, something Republicans haven't done in 2 decades. And I think it's a clear signal that there is a new coalition of working class Americans that are made up of all races that are responding to Donald Trump's message of strong leadership, economic growth, and America first.
Okay, first of all, I'm just going to say this right here. I'm not sharing this clip because I agree with this take. I don't. I said this last night. I will say it again. I will say it as many times as I need to. The numbers that we saw from the election last night in the final tally that we will see when it's all said and done is not a reflection of the way that Trump ran a campaign or the way that people feel about Trump.
Yep.
It was people's disdain for the Democratic Party as a whole and for a candidate who was worse than the guy that they wanted out in the first place. That's that's the key. That's the difference. It is not that people fell into believe what Donald Trump said. I've seen numerous things where people were making the I think it was like 2 to 3 million votes. Donald Trump lost 2 to 3 million votes in total.
But Kamala lost 14 million.
14 million.
And they're trying to
14 million.
They're trying to blame that as cheating by Trump, that Kamala Harris voters didn't go to the polls. Like, no, bitch, that was her fault for not getting people motivated enough to go want to vote for her. You can't blame Trump for her lack of votes. That's stupid. I'm sorry. That's just dumb.
That's not politics. You know what politics is? It's getting people motivated enough to get their fucking lazy asses off of the couch.
Right.
Stop watching the fucking Teen Mom reunion and go fucking vote, dude. Like, that's literally the whole point of a politician's job.
It's like they saw Bernie's campaign and said, nah, that's not it.
Yeah. Nah, dude. No.
No, that can't be it.
Yo, that guy that had like all that momentum and had like the wildest fucking stretch of demographics supporting him. Let's not do that at all. Like,
No,
that's
not right.
weird, dude.
Yeah.
That's icky. I mean, it's kind of what helped us in 2020, but like, let's not do that.
Right.
No, because, and I actually just made myself have a quick like epiphany. Like, no, 100%, because in 2020 you saw the adaptation of a more pro Bernie messaging compared to 2016 when he was blackballed out of the primary.
Yep.
Because they saw the whiplash. And yes, Democrats are fucking stupid, but they're not dumb. And they understood the whiplash that they're receiving. They saw the way that people responded to Trump. And the one decent thing that they did was at least campaign on the opposite of what Trump was doing. Not similar, but opposite.
Mm-hmm.
First policies. There's been a lot of coverage so far of exit polling, but one thing I haven't seen covered yet is parents. Donald Trump won parents 50 to 47, and there was no gender gap amongst parents. He won moms 49-48, he won dads 52-48. And we can spend a lot of time dissecting where that went through and what states he may have won. But I think that's an important aspect, is you look at the working class coalition and the parents that came together to put Donald Trump back in the White House.
Also, you notice how Dow's looking right there?
Last night.
Yeah,
is that
and
any
that
indication
is what Mark
of
Penn
how
has
bad
been
it's
saying
going
as
to
well.
be
We're
for
going
the
to talk
average
with Mark
person?
Penn
It's
coming
right
up in
here.
the show. To get
Wall
more on that,
Street
I think
is
you're spot
happy.
on there. Fox News
Dude,
senior
they
White
are
House correspondent Jackie
booming today.
Heinrich spoke with Lindy Lee, who
They
serves
are
on the
happy.
DNC National Finance
Plus
Committee and is a Harris surrogate
2.83%.
earlier this morning
Holy
as the results are still coming in.
fuck.
She said Democrats were already playing the blame game. Watch this.
My phone is blowing up with recriminations and people just freaking out. This is not the outcome that we expected at all. We weren't expecting a blowout at all. We were hoping that we could hold on to those critical blue wall states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, certainly, but all that is
Yo, those
slipping
blue
away.
wave
The
motherfuckers
blame game
really
has
were hoping
started.
for
One
that
of the
blue
things that are
wave.
top of mind is the choice of Tim Walz as the vice
even
presidential
had one in my
candidate. A lot of
stream.
people are saying tonight
Yep,
that it should have
that's
been Josh
wild.
McDaniels.
And I
People
tried
have been saying
saying,
that
I
for months. I
tried
hate to say
saying.
this, but I'm
Yep.
not sure how much Tim Walz contributed to the ticket.
Okay. First off, Tim Walz is the only reason that there was any fucking momentum for Kamala Harris in the first goddamn place. Because for the longest time, until she picked a VP candidate, what did we keep hearing from motherfuckers on Fox and Fox Business? Oh, who is Kamala Harris? We don't even know who Kamala is. Blah, 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 blah. And then Tim Walz got picked over fucking Shapiro and Bashir. And all of a sudden, it was, oh, he's bad. That guy's bad. They should have picked Shapiro. They didn't pick Shapiro because they don't support Jewish people and they don't support Israel.
Even though Kamala's married to a Jewish man.
Yeah.
Julian, your reaction. It's projected that Democrats lost the presidency, the Senate flipped, and it looks like the GOP could keep control of the House. This is looking more and more like a sweep. Your reaction?
Well, good morning, Maria, and thanks for having me on. Yes, I think we're in landslide territory right now. And, you know, you and I have been talking about this for a long time now. I've been on record about this for the last 2 years. The Democrats needed to do two things to win this election. One is they needed a strong, competent candidate that could make the case and answer questions, including in unscripted environments, the way, say, a Bill Clinton could or a Barack Obama could. Kamala Harris was not that person. Joe Biden was not that person. The Democratic leadership knew about that, and they tried to paper that over, and today they pay the price for that. The second thing the Democrats needed to do, as you and I have discussed many times, is they needed a sister soldier moment, not just on one issue, but just on about everything. The Democratic record and the Democratic policies are deeply unpopular, not just on 25% governments of the economy being government spending now, but immigration, crime, extremism on the Green New Deal, go on down.
Extremism on the Green New Deal. Brother, Kamala was talking about drill, baby, drill. What the fuck are we even talking about? Kamala was pro-fracking this time around. Something that Biden in 2020 was anti.
Yeah, it's what they do. They make the status quo Democrat policies look like extremism, so it forces the Democrats to feel like they need to go even further right, and we just keep aiming to the right, baby.
Like, I need to try to remind myself. I really want to bring up, I want to see if I can find a video about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's viewpoint on fracking, because in 2020 compared to now.
On the line. And, I agree with your guest here. I think what we are seeing
Inside,
now
watch a
is
TikTok,
a
they're
massive
dumb.
realignment.
They don't
not just
understand
a
the bigger
political
import tax
realignment,
expensive
but a
every single good that comes
cultural
outside the U.S.
realignment,
is going to be.
voters are
Yeah, they don't think
rejecting
about
not just the
that because they're
Democratic Party
stupid.
And their
They
policies and their
simultaneously
lawfare
bitch about
tactics,
there's
but
no
this is also,
manufacturing jobs in the United States, but then they want
big
a fucking
signal
tariff.
to the news media
Right.
that
Like they're dumb.
was, in my
You're
opinion, I say
stupid,
this as a
you know?
Democrat, incredibly biased. They became activists rather than journalists during this campaign. It is a signal
Exxon
to
will.
Wall Street
Yeah, well,
and
for
Silicon
Utah,
Valley, who
I'll
were
take it.
behind the Democrats.
Exxon probably will. They're going to be
And,
drilling a lot
it's
more
a signal
now.
to Hollywood.
It's probably
a
gonna
real
be,
signal that the working class of this country is saying.
There's
to
probably
the
going to be a lot of
professional
national parks. I know that last time Trump was in office, he was really pushing to start drilling in the Grand Canyon. I think with the Supreme Court ruling where like any official act cannot be deemed illegal, I think what Trump's going to end up doing is he's going to start using and privatizing national parks so he can start extracting oil and as many resources as possible.
Destructive on the American people. I mean, when you consider the failure of the White House.
And the problem is, too, these motherfuckers are talking about destructive policies on the economy, but they don't want to bring up the fact that Donald Trump, in fact, did not bring all the manufacturing jobs to America like he said he was going to, right? If anything, more manufacturing went to, countries like China. So, they try to argue on the standpoint of like, oh well, we support Trump for economic policy, but they don't they don't even understand what his economic policy is because he never really gets into detail. And when you're in a cult, you can just kind of make up and think and interpret what they mean when they say things.
Border. Having national
That's why I like when Trump's like,
impact,
yeah, we
national
should
security
totally
impact,
kill him. We should
economic
take all
impact,
the
Julian.
migrants and
Do
just
you
take
think
them to
that they
firing
understand
squad.
how
They'd be like, oh, he
destructive
didn't
that
mean it
was to
that
have
way.
such weak
It was just a
vision
joke,
at the
dude.
open border?
I think it was very destructive in terms of national
Man.
security, and it was also because of the
My
economy.
brain still
There's so
cannot
much
process
data
the fact that this
out
is
there that
happening in
shows
our
that
country right
immigration
now. I am
is
having
wage
the
theft.
hardest
And when I
time.
talk about luxury beliefs, immigration is very good for the elites because they can build cheaper houses and have people clean those houses. But it robs middle-class people not just of jobs, but of wages because it pushes wages down. This is the kind of thing that I think a lot of middle-class voters really object to.
Yeah.
So, one of the big differences between the Democrats and the Republicans is the Democrats really believed that they could buy votes by expanding the welfare state. New entitlements on housing, new entitlements, forgive student loans, new entitlements for small businesses. Just keep piling on.
Okay, besides the loans thing, those were all things that did well for them and polled very well.
Why are they called entitlements for poor people but subsidies for rich people? I hate the wording.
Because language is important. But no,
Mm.
but it's just like besides the fucking besides the loan for small businesses, every other thing that he named was polling very well for her and was actually one of the few things that people were saying that was positive about her, right? They're like, oh, well, she might actually fucking do something about student loan forgiveness, and that's really fucking great. Or, hey, she might do something for first-time home buyers. That's really fucking great. I want to start a family. I want to be able to buy a home, not just have to rent an apartment.
Yep.
Those were things that people could actually, be like, hey, that's going to direct me impact me directly. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But the most disappointing thing out of all of those, like I was saying, is the $50,000 for a startup business. I'm sorry. I will die on this hill. Small businesses are not the fucking backbone of America. You know what the backbone of America is? The average American, the middle fucking class. That is the backbone of America.
Yep. Absolutely, the laborer. That's absolutely fucking crazy though that he's sitting there talking about or talking shit about the actual couple of small things that she would have done right. Just going to show that Republicans aren't going to do any of that stuff for us at all whatsoever.
Well, here's the thing, right? If Trump supporters could at least be somewhat coherent and start saying, okay, our guy won now, like, hey, since you won, can you please start telling us things that you're going to do that will like directly impact us, that's like not the tariff, but like different policy and legislation that you're going to get through? Can you do that? They're not going to, but that would be fucking nice because I myself would at least like to know what exactly he's going to try to implement to appease his base, because ultimately Donald Trump doesn't really give a fuck about his base because his base are, the poor people.
Yeah, I'm very, very, very interested to see his first week in office. Just from his campaign rhetoric, I'm scared, but also interested to see if he's actually going to try to pull some of this shit off.
Well, I'm going to nip one thing in the bud about that. Taco said not even that Wisconsin factory was a done deal, and I think you're talking about like the Fox River Valley fucking manufacturing building that a lot of people got pissed off about because it was supposed to be a shit ton of jobs and it was only like a couple dozen people and then the rest was like automated and shit. Yeah, I remember that specifically. And that was the funny thing, is because you had a lot of people that, that happened in Trump country, right? Like it happened in the area that isn't necessarily a large city. It's more of a small town. And a lot of people were in support of Trump. But that was one thing that got them pissed off about him. And I'm actually kind of curious how they voted around this time. Because if they went back to vote for Trump, I wouldn't necessarily blame them. Just based off the fact that if you are going to go away from something that you had before and maybe you had some disagreements, it's better than a person that's running that just doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and it's obvious. Because I'm sorry, there's so many fucking leftists right now that are on Twitter, or I shouldn't say leftists, liberals that are on Twitter that are trying to be like, Kamala Harris was so qualified. In fact, she was overqualified. She worked in all three branches, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, if she was so qualified, how come she was so fucking stupid during her entire campaign process? How come she just kept making bad choice after bad choice after bad choice?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, during one of the major historical moments where there are more Muslims being killed than, in a very long time,
Yep. I
they're
mean, she could
going
have
to
made.
parade Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, who are responsible for the most recent fucking massacre of Arabs and Muslims before this one.
I mean, she even had a
Like,
chance to prove a point and make a name for herself as vice president during her 4 years as vice president. But now all people remember her is the border czar and do not come. So she
do not count.
constantly, yeah, she constantly screws herself. So
No, 100%. And I could just go on about how fucking dumb that shit was. Let's finish this video.
okay.
Don't like that. They find that very patronizing. What they want to see is
Kill me.
economy and
I know.
protecting jobs. And whether
Don't
you
worry, you got
agree
4
with
years of
tariffs or
banging your
not,
head against the wall.
working class voters really believe that Donald Trump was trying to protect jobs rather than to give government handouts. And that
Government
resonated
handouts. Here we
in a
go.
way that's much, much more significant than I think Democrats recognize. And it pains me to say this as a Democrat, but it's true.
Yeah, and Chris, I think people came out and basically said, I want the opportunities.
Norman Bates
I'm not
looking ass
interested in a
motherfucker.
handout of up to $20,000 if I'm a black male. I'd rather have an opportunity to make money and climb that ladder myself. Your reaction?
You're not a black male. Why are you even calling?
First, no, thank you. I was getting ready to say that, but thank you. Yes, continue.
Why is she even talking about it? I'm sorry, but I'm not even a black male, and I would take that fucking money. The fuck she's talking about? Because she gets sitting there in a $2,000 dress in a multi-million-dollar building. Like, shut the fuck up, cunt. I mean, bitch.
No.
Ooh.
No, you know what it is? It's because it's part of the rhetoric of you shouldn't accept handouts. The only people that should get handouts and should like it is rich people.
Right.
That's it. Like,
You're
those are the only people. Because you know what's wild is I wish I could remember the poll. I'll have to try to look it up. If anything, I'll post it in like a Discord. But there were so many people that were talking about, like, yeah, I'm one to vote for Donald Trump because, those stimulus checks were pretty fucking nice. That shit was pretty fucking cool. He gave me $12,000 or $1,200.
Right.
And there was a lot of people who were saying that, and they were like, that was like a valid take, a stupid one, but it's something that at least was truthful. They're like, yeah. I mean, there was a whole reason that was given to you. There was kind of a whole pandemic going on.
Right.
But people like to forget about the pandemic. They don't like to think about it because maybe they lost somebody, or maybe it's just something that they didn't want to believe in.
Yeah. I mean, you still had to jump through a bazillion fucking hoops to even get that $1,200. And if you were in the gig economy, good fucking luck getting that $1,200 to trying to get proof of income and shit. Dude, it was so hard. And I'm sorry, but they sit there and they say free handouts and like the welfare economy for these like moms who are getting, $500 a month and like $250 in food stamps. They call this free handouts and shit. But like, yeah, Elon Musk can get like, I don't know, like 1,200 or $100 million from the government, and it's a subsidy and it's totally fine. And they're job creators and it's okay. And all we ever see of that fucking money is Elon Musk out there making fucking uh, fire shooters and shit. Like, it makes me so mad. You all are like stigmatizing and bringing down this poor woman who's getting welfare money to fucking survive. But Elon gets hundreds of millions of dollars to make fucking fun guns, and it's okay and it's totally cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she has to make better choices.
She has, yeah.
I gotta say,
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fucking
accountability, man.
so frustrating. As a woman, I do not approve.
how condescending the Democratic campaign was to working class voters and offering handouts in exchange for votes. And what's really remarkable about that,
Oh,
Maria,
you
from a
mean
political
doing
strategy
things for
standpoint,
Can't
your voting
is in
base?
the end, it
like what
looks
The
Trump
like
whole
just did with
Trump
$1
will
million
win first-time
handout
voters pretty strongly, and I
with
give a lot of
Elon?
credit to the campaign for that. They've
Yo,
driven them out.
when you're
But yeah,
running
it's
for
not just
president,
white first-time voters; it's
don't
African-American
offer the
first-time voters
people
and
voting
Hispanic
for you
first-time voters.
anything.
And they
Like,
did,
just
and
don't
they're going to
offer
win
them
counties in
anything. They
South
don't want
Texas
handouts,
that
dude.
have never been won before
Yeah.
by a Republican.
That's
Really,
literally the
great
dumbest
conversation.
fucking take. Like, yeah, yo, when you're, hey, Jimmy, if you run for office, just make sure that you don't offer anybody anything, especially money.
Okay, absolutely.
Especially money.
Yep.
Just make sure, okay?
Says the white man on there. God, fuck.
Oh
I-
boy. So there was an image I wanted to bring up because we're talking about the blame game, right? And we had to hear, unfortunately, from Fox News Business Edition, and that's the conservative light part of it because it's daytime and it's Fox Business. They're not as crazy as like regular Fox News.
Well, look
That's the
at
same
the
thing.
difference. Yo, white people are like the nerds in the Florida of America. I swear to God, it's so great.
So this is what I wanted to show on stream because it's very important to look at these numbers.
Yep.
Very, 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 very.
Yeah, it just shows that white people's don't, yeah, the cognitive dissonance is thick and everybody else knows it.
So 57%. Okay, first off, I've been seeing a lot of people that have gotten upset over numerous things about this image that's been going around today. One of which is this right here. 34%, 39%. So ultimately, white women came out to vote a whole hell of a lot more. And that's reflected because she gained 7 points. Okay.
Mhm.
But Trump still got 51% out of almost 40% of women who vote. He got, that's how much he won. That's insane to me. 51%. Out of almost 40%, that's a pretty big number. 40% turnout for a demographic is pretty fucking good for United States elections. Okay. White men turn out only 34%, but 57% went to Trump. Now, I've been seeing online from multiple Twitter accounts from typical libs where they're blaming black men, black women, and specifically the Latin community, the Latino community, rather. And I just want to say something. No, it's not any of these people's fault at all, because they were the people who were getting attacked by the Kamala Harris campaign. They were the ones who were being told, we don't need your fucking vote. You want to be a third party voter and waste that shit? Then fucking do it. That's the message that they gave to us, right? The infamous, I'm talking.
Yep.
I'm talking now.
Yep.
That was their message. When people were reaching out and saying, hey, we want you to campaign this way, her response was, shut the fuck up. I'm talking.
Yep.
And she operated and tried pushing herself as this, empathetic, listening, very caring, candidate. But when you have a clip going around of you at a rally of your own people telling someone to shut the fuck up, you come off as kind of, snobby, stuck up.
Right.
Which I'm not saying that's necessarily, what she's about. I don't fucking know her personally, but that's just how she came across.
Right.
So
Still
I
crazy
just
to me that 40% of white women actually went out to vote and 51% of them voted Trump, though. That's yeah.
now that's gonna initially. What's your reaction to that? That's my question for you.
No disrespect to the white Republican women out there, but it seems like we're still cuckolded by misogyny a little fucking bit.
All right, I'm about to show you an image that might break that. You want to see
Okay.
something wild?
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Abortion and Kamala.
In Montana, abortion
Jeez.
had 54.5% support, up 19 points compared to Kamala. Florida, abortion got fucking approved, right? 57%.
Okay, so women are still out there thinking correctly, but then what would make white women want to vote for Trump? Like, I get just not voting for Kamala. Why vote for Trump?
I mean, I'm not a white woman, so I don't know, but I can only assume that uh, because even though the abortion thing is something that's very adamant, I think a lot of people have kind of went alongside the Democratic Party, and they now are starting to be like, oh, well, maybe states' rights is the way to go. Maybe it should come down to the state. And I think that might be one of the political shifts because people are losing faith in federal government. It's been slowly being chipped out away. I mean, constantly after years and years and years of people complaining about big government, big brother, taxation is theft. That's another favorite line of people. And anti-government sentiment has been sowed specifically, by conservatives and by the right and those who have power. Because, and Noam Chomsky talks about this quite a bit. Shout out to the legend. It's purposely done that way because when you have a population that's focused on throwing their angst at the federal government, who's initially there as a means of, democrat. Supposedly, they're supposed to be there, voted there democratically, and represent the interests of the population. And unfortunately, we live in a system where the corporations kind of decide whether or not who's going to get into power, who's going to make the rules, who's going to have the seats, and who's going to be a legacy candidate.
Right.
And we don't get to vote for who's CEO. We don't get to vote for board of directors. So because of that corruption, we're, kind of put in the position we are now.
Right. It's just so strange to me that these women out here, when it comes to normal policy, they agree with us, but then they're just the presidential vote is literally disagreeing with all of their local politics that they believe in. It's so fucking confusing to me. If white
Um,
women, yeah,
Sorry, I was reading Taco's thing. I thought
no,
you were done. Continue.
ignorance and aging. No, I get. No, go for it. I'm just gonna repeat myself. It's frustrating.
Government money right there. Ignorance and aging. When you say ignorance and aging, though, are you speaking about the white men and white women demographic? Because one of the main reasons I wanted to bring this up is it highlights something very important, at least to me. What this graphic here shows me is that Americans don't hate leftist policies, they just hate the Democratic name. That's the difference. It doesn't matter what you could come draped in. If you have that D next to your name, there is just a certain amount of people who won't vote for you, no matter what. And Kamala Harris was so bad that she ended up losing a percentage of conservative voters who had voted for Trump and then voted Biden. She lost on that after doing nothing but conceding to the right and propping them up.
Yeah. But then that just caters to the idea that I was talking about earlier, that the Republicans putting in an entertainment guy and the Democrats are maybe starting to go around saying that they should start putting in a celebrity or something because that seems to be what works, and that could possibly be their next step of action, is turning celebrities into politicians and presidential candidates, because that could get the momentum, the people out to vote. Whatever the Dems are doing, they're failing. So they're not doing it right. And they keep not doing it right. We're never going to see like this Obama, Bernie thing again for probably a really long time. So it seems logical that the Dems would be like, well, let's see, since we're leaning right anyway, what are the Republicans doing? Oh, they're putting a celebrity on there. So now we've got to find our own. Like, they could probably run fucking Oprah in 4 years. I wouldn't put it past them.
You would think that they would legit.
I think that look, they're already stooping down to the Republicans' level. I really in 4 years I wouldn't put it past them. I don't think they're below that. I mean, fucking Kamala Harris had every fucking celebrity on her rally stage that we all could think of. Why wouldn't it just seems like that would be their next plan because everything they're doing is failing.
Um, I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I just think that even as
Crazy as it sounds.
unaware. No, not as crazy as it sounds. It doesn't sound crazy at all. It's something again. I can definitely see why you would think that. I just think personally that the Democratic Party, as unaware as they may seem, they at least are able to read the room enough, knowing that like running a celebrity probably isn't the best because right now they really have to appeal to like the average person, and you can't do that with a celebrity. Why do you think that they told Kamala to go out there and talk about being middle class and working at McDonald's and shit so much? Because
Right.
they needed her to appeal towards that middle class average, American worker. And the reason that they did that and they could do that for a while and she tried doing that is because not much was known about her. Unless you were like really, really into politics,
In
nobody really knew.
California. Yeah.
Or from California,
Yeah.
exactly. Like you didn't know shit about Kamala Harris.
Right. I just it just seems okay, so because Trump just won for a second fucking time after losing one, it just seems like unless the Democrats can pull a fucking rabbit out of a hat somehow, they're gonna, like you were saying last night, they're gonna run JD Vance, and this whole whole Republican weirdos are just gonna keep winning over and over and over again. They've the Dems have to do something that brings back that light in people's eyes like Bernie did and like what Obama did. And I just don't see anyone, at least that's a Democrat, in office right now that they could train and groom that could be that.
They got a couple people on the roster. They're probably not going to pick them, but they do have people on the roster.
Right, but are they rabbit out of a hat trick good?
A couple of them are pretty solid. Yeah.
Who? Because Gavin ain't shit.
The current, former VP pick for the Kamala Harris campaign,
You
Tim
think
Walz. He's
yeah, you might
if
be
he had
right.
his own campaign, because keep in mind, I will stand on this hill. The excitement for the Kamala Harris campaign did not happen or start getting to the level it was until the Walz pick was made.
You
And he
right.
came out and gave a speech where he started talking about how fucking weird conservatives are.
And that
How
we mind our own damn business. Yeah,
yeah,
you right.
don't be fucking weird. Don't
Yep.
fuck with your neighbors. Mind your own fucking business. Kind of like old school shit you would hear your grandpa say, like, "Oh, we don't stick our nose in what goes on at the neighbors. Just mind your own business." Like
Yep.
he appealed to that, and fucking whether you're white America or just regular working class America, whatever, like that
Yeah,
appeals to you.
you're right. I didn't even think about Tim Walz. He's probably gonna be their little
He's
next
He's a
old head.
great pick. Obviously, I think Bashir. Um, I don't know if they'd want to get rid of somebody that's holding down the fort in a southern state. But he's somebody that I think in the future would definitely be someone that they could get in. They're probably going to try to do Shapiro too, just because he's very pro-Israel. He comes from a very important swing state.
Okay.
That's one. JB Pritzker. Shout out to my former governor, big boy, big boy. Um, he was a really big surprise, and I think in the future I would love to do an episode about specific governors, and I would love to talk about my boy JB Pritzker because he fucking blew my mind.
Okay.
He was somebody that coming into the race. So for the gubernatorial race, the most recent one, he was going against this guy named Daniel Biss, who is a former teacher and then started working down in Springfield, which is the capital in Illinois. He ran with Lieutenant Governor Letitia Wallace, and she was pretty solid for the most part. She's a bit lived up, but she was pretty solid. Always took care of her constituents. And then you had Chris Kennedy, who was running, who's part of the Kennedy family. JB Pritzker, and then there was somebody else. He was from the Libertarian Party. I can't even remember his name, but he was a weirdo. He didn't even get like 1% of the vote.
Okay. So they already
Uh,
got people in mind that could possibly pull a rabbit out of the hat for them.
Well, yeah, and I think the Democrats definitely do it, but are they going to? Who knows? I mean,
Right.
they might do something like you were talking about with Gavin Newsom. I know that was a really big thing that was coming out when Nancy Pelosi had started talking about, when she's going to be putting her boots up and what's going to
Retiring.
happen.
Yep.
Yes. So I know that once that started happening, a lot of rumor and speculation was going around that is she going to be kind of training him to take on that role, right, to become whip, or if they're going to be like, hey, we're going to put you on some game and get you ready to start running for presidency. Because when Joe Biden was getting ready to step down, he was one of the names that they were throwing out there.
Yeah, absolutely. They
It
were.
was him, it was JB Pritzker, it was Bashir, and a few others that they were named, Shapiro, I believe. So
Okay.
yeah, they had their ideas, but whoever is running Biden's campaign said, "Yeah, let's go with Kamala. She's
Okay.
not known enough. We can do whatever we want."
Okay. Okay. So then they have a plan. I had no idea. I was wondering if they even had something because in my head it seemed like they're just gonna keep putting these shitty ass Dems up and we're just gonna continuously have Republicans from now on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the voting constituency, they're definitely shitty ass Dems, but for the covert donors, those are the people that they want that get
Yeah.
put into place. So they're like, hey, if you want to keep getting our money, like you got to put these people here.
Right. But to get obvious, well, they're starting to realize that they're not even getting what they want because the Dems aren't even getting into presidency. So it would seem like Tim Walz would be a good one
No,
because on the outside and his actions, he does seem progressive, but he also caters to the status quo as well.
yeah, but a lot of their covert donors, regardless if the Democrats win or not, they always get taken care of.
Right. Because yeah, they'll donate to both sides.
The only difference is like the corporate donors for the Democratic Party. They're that's part of their going green initiative or our diversity matters initiative.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just plausible deniability.
Okay. All right. So what else you got for us?
Oh, okay. We are going to be watching a little snippet talking about Republicans gaining control of the U.S. Senate because now not only is Trump going to be in charge, but he's going to be able to kind of just pass whatever he wants because I think the House is pretty much sold up. I think the House is going red as
Yep.
well. We're going to have a complete control. So just to recap before we start the video, presidency, executive branch, that's going to Donald Trump. The Senate, that's going to Donald Trump. House, that's going to Donald Trump. Supreme Court is going to become more than likely a 7-2 majority in
Yep.
favor of conservative, and that's going to be for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So
Yeah. Well, it's already a 5-4 conservative, so we're already screwed as it is.
yeah,
But yeah, it's gonna get worse.
it's going to be poo-poo planner.
Yep.
Announcement. This election has changed the state of play in America. Decision Desk HQ projects the GOP has won a majority of seats in the next Senate. Big implication. Why? Supreme Court. Why else?
Hey, Chris Cuomo.
Legislative agenda. This is going to be a
believe he
big
still has a
deal,
job.
and it is a reflection.
Yeah, he does
of
News
how
Nation shit all the
America
time. You know what's funny is
decided
my
to
dad
choose
watches
in
my dad watches this shit sometimes.
2024. So,
Wait, Chris
we don't
Cuomo
know
is
if the
doing
number
News
is gonna
Nation.
be
Isn't that a
53,
Fox thing?
54. But we do know this.
I think so. I think it's like a subsidiary.
This is
of,
Oh
Fox.
my God.
Wow. This is the Nebraska Senate race. Deb Fischer, the idea of a Republican being in trouble in Nebraska is unthinkable. And Deb Fischer, the longtime incumbent senator, this was a boring race, had a challenger, Dan Osborne, who ran as an
Leave it up
independent
to
and
fucking
got
Fox
this close.
News
This
to
is
allow
stunning.
the brother
And if you
of
want to
the
think about
guy who allowed
repudiation
old
of the
people to die
establishment,
during
There you go.
COVID
that's
to
it.
be on their
So,
station.
And look, people can dicker with this all they want later on, but being an independent made a difference for Osborne. It resonated.
I gotta go grab a
and
drink
he had
real quick.
no business
Yep,
being
sounds
close,
good.
but it shows the appetite that people have for something better than left versus right, something that approaches reasonable. So we see right now it's 51 plus for the Republicans. We'll see how it looks. But we also saw in Ohio, Sherrod Brown, longtime Democrat, losing in an insurgent race there. And that is the story of the night. Underperformance in places where we thought Harris wouldn't do well, sure, but down ballot. The balance of power has changed.
It's going to make
and
a huge
no
difference.
matter who wins the presidency, they will have to deal with a Republican Senate.
Yeah. With a margin, nice margin.
If we can put up the Michigan numbers, there's only 40% of Michigans vote in, which the idea that you only have 40% counted at midnight is atrocious in and of itself.
Although they did tell us to expect that.
Well, just because I tell you to
There you
expect
go.
bad customer service doesn't make it okay. That said, 49%, and I just heard from a very, very senior Democrat, longtime elected official in Denver, in Michigan. I'm getting tired. But this is somebody who knows Michigan politics inside and out, whose name's synonymous with Michigan. I asked him, what in golf, for a golf shot, is it like for Kamala Harris to win Michigan? This morning he told me it was an 8-foot putt, which is 50-50. He just told me that it's now a 30-foot putt.
Wow.
For Kamala Harris to win Michigan.
Now,
And this is a guy.
If she doesn't, what is the math?
If she does not win
Trump
Michigan,
wins and we're all
she can
fucked.
still win Pennsylvania, but then she has to win Nevada and Arizona. Both. So it gets very, very, very thin for her to do that. This is from the same source. It's tough. Michigan looks more doable than Pennsylvania. And if Kamala Harris loses
I'm
Pennsylvania,
so glad
Donald
I
Trump's
was
at
sleeping
270,
during all of
we
this.
all
I
go
swear
home.
to God,
Starwalt's,
man.
with us. Chris, do you agree with the 30-foot putt assessment for Kamala Harris in Michigan at this point?
Oh, I would on a 30-foot putt. You'd have to give it to me. I wouldn't even try. Actually, you know what I'd do if I was playing golf with you? I'd say just give me 2 from here, and we'll call it good.
I hate when they do golf shit. I don't understand it.
The Pennsylvania.
What does that mean, you guys?
Is where it's at, and we're getting a ton of vote in Pennsylvania now, and we're starting to see the numbers. And basically, America, the way you can think about it right now, is Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Milwaukee are what stand between Donald Trump and being the first person since Grover Cleveland to return to the White House in non-consecutive terms. Her position is, I would not currently describe it as dire.
I'm too far away.
But she needs to exceed probably the kinds of volume that Joe Biden did in those cities. And so this remains a very nerve-wracking moment for Democrats.
Oh, 30 feet
because
is too
when
far
we
away.
look
Okay.
at Philadelphia County, when we look at Allegheny County, when we look at Wayne County.
Okay, so
when
they were
we
talking about
look
the
at
distance
Milwaukee
that you have
County,
to hit the ball to the
we
hole.
don't know.
Okay.
We can't know the answer yet, but that is exactly
So
what it is. And
you
every
were
minute
asking
that
what
goes
what
by,
the golf
you're
terms are.
getting
A
more vote
birdie
in.
is
You're counting more
where
vote,
the
you
ball
get closer and
bounces
closer
and
to
hits
the
you in the
answer. So
nuts.
this looks to be
Where what?
a very eventful
The ball
time
bounces
of our
and hits you in the nuts.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to
See,
joinnn.com.
Taco, you lied to me.
Yeah. Taco always lies.
Wow.
30 feet is too far. Get the fuck out of here.
I swear, when news people start using golf references, I'm like, I'm out. I don't know this shit. Y'all use the
So
word handicap in there. I'm not here for it.
there was a video that somebody was telling me about. It's a New York Times podcast, and they said that there's a couple good moments from it. It's a 29-minute video, so if there's becomes a point where you want me to skip ahead a little bit and try to find something, that's fine. But I heard it was a really good overall take.
All right, let's do it.
It is nearly 1:30 a.m. on the morning after Election Day. It's been a really long night. It's going to be a really long morning. And we are going to head into the studio and unpack everything that we know and don't know about the results. I'm Michael Barbaro, and this is The Daily. So, Estad, Nate, Lisa, thank you for being here at 1:25 a.m.
Thank you for having
I
us.
deeply appreciate
The
it.
night's still young for us.
It is. But at this moment, it is looking very likely that Donald Trump will be the winner of this election and that he will return to the White House. So I just want to take a moment and have you all reflect on the significance of that reality, that Trump is now exceedingly likely to have a second term in the White House. Lisa?
Well, this is a huge accomplishment. I mean, I've been thinking about how, in a way, Trump is his own historic first. You know, we talk a lot about barrier breaking candidates, and Vice President Harris would have been the first female president. Trump, of course, will be the first convicted felon and twice impeached
And she
president.
lost to
He'll
that
be the
guy.
first
And she fucking lost to
president
him.
in more
Yeah,
than
can I
120
just make a
years
statement to
to
anyone
come
who has a
back
felony
after
and goes and
losing a
apply for a
re-election bid?
job? Do not
So
put that
he
you
is
put a
breaking
felony because
boundaries
obviously
in
the
his
bar
way.
is so low
And
that
of
it doesn't
course,
even
then
fucking
there's all
matter
the
anymore.
things that he promised during the course
Straight
of his
up.
campaign, which really, as we've talked about before on this roundtable, seem to flout, if not directly at, some core principles of, you know, the country's founding system of democracy. So it does feel like we're headed to a pretty
Show me the
extraordinary
tit
and
of a
unprecedented
strawberry. Roxy,
second
have you been
term
What the
hacked?
fuck?
Trump and for the nation.
What the fuck? That
Is
sounds
that your
like some shit
reaction?
Taco would say.
I
I
know. That's
think
what I thought it was
that
at first. Are you hacked,
in
Roxy? Did Taco steal your phone?
2016, you could have told yourself that America didn't know what it was selecting.
Yes.
And I think now you can, right? Like, it's not just his literal return. It is the fact that he has been so explicit in the run-up to that return. The convictions, the sexual assault liability,
Help
the
me.
you can go on and on and on, but there's not a lack of
I'd
evidence on who
never.
Donald Trump is
Okay.
and what he is promising. And so I think that that is the thing that largely sits with me. And I think on the other side, the Democratic refusal to
Okay,
see
this dude's
the
kind of cooking.
unpopularity of Joe Biden, the dismissal
This
of
dude's kind
anyone
of
who
cooking.
talked about a
Wait,
primary,
rewind it. I
the
missed it.
demanding of party loyalty,
Okay.
Okay.
just his literal return. It is.
Trump and for the nation.
We'll get
Is
back
that
to
your
this guy.
reaction?
I think that in 2016, you could have told yourself that America didn't know what it was selecting. And I think now you can, right? Like, it's not just his literal return. It is the fact that he has
Agree,
been so
Roxy.
explicit in the run-up to that return. The convictions, the sexual assault liability, you can go on and on and on, but there's not a lack of evidence on who Donald Trump is and what he is promising. And so I think that that is the thing that largely sits with me. And I think on the other side, the Democratic refusal to see the unpopularity of Joe Biden, the dismissal of anyone who talked about a primary, the demanding of party loyalty, all of that looks ridiculous. And the national picture.
Jesus.
So, I just want to say, again, this man is cooking.
Yep.
I mean, he's absolutely right.
Yep.
The loyalty that Democrats were wanting voters to be without even making an attempt to listen to their demands. Just completely delusional.
That shows a consistent desire for
Hi.
change, I think has to be read as first and foremost
Hi,
a rejection
baby.
of the current administration.
Dancing?
And there was a lot of
Hi,
signs
Roxy.
that
High
pointed to
five.
that for a long time. And so, in the same way I think there is an active embrace of Donald Trump you can ignore, I think you also have to point out that the strategy that Democrats took, the self-belief that they had, that they were certain of, has put them in this situation.
We're going to return to that.
Take
for
care,
sure,
Roxy.
Estad. And then
Thank
we'll
you
go
for
with the soul
stopping in.
searching within the Democratic Party, all the decision making around Biden. But
Bye,
first, Nate,
Jada.
your
Love
quick
you.
reaction before we get into the question of how we actually got here
Sorry,
tonight.
Jada wanted to
Well,
make it
Stead
out.
took
That's so
100 minutes
cute.
just of
Speaker
mine, so I'll
mine.
offer a slightly.
Yo.
I'll zig where
She said,
others
fuck
zagged
Donald
and
Trump.
just reflect on the potentially extraordinary consequences of a second Trump term.
on almost every major issue that there has been consensus on in the United States since World War II, whether it's foreign policy or immigration or trade, norms for constitutional government. Now, a majority or near majority of Americans will elect someone who, potentially in the most radical ways, will try and overturn that consensus.
Nate, just how much of a victory does this appear to be for Trump? How close was this?
By most measures, it's still going to be a fairly close election. It should be noted he is favored to win the popular vote, which is extraordinary given that he lost the last 2 times, that no Republican has won it in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But he may only win it by a point or two. Biden won it by 4.5, and we didn't consider that to be a landslide. He's probably going to sweep all of the swing states, but that would put him just over 300 electoral votes, not 370 like Obama. So you can't call it a landslide, but it's a clear victory.
Okay.
Right.
I want to talk about how Trump pulled this off.
All right.
And Nate, I want
I'm
to
gonna
stick
pause
with
it
you
really
because
quick.
you were on the show.
Yeah.
Because I think there was something you wanted to add to that.
Right. I just wanted to kind of I just hate that they usually downplay something that's is historical just because it's a Republican, just because he doesn't have just as many votes as Obama did. This is just as historical. This is definitely a landslide. Kamala lost miserably. I just feel like they were kind of downplaying that, and I wanted to bump that up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think this was being done while there was still at least like a smidgen of hope, right?
Right.
And I think he's just operating and using that kind of language as a way to be like, yeah,
Makes
stay
sense.
hopeful. But no, I agree with you. It's
Yeah.
it's not puppy dogs and rainbows.
Yesterday, outlining various scenarios for the outcome of this race. And the one that appears to have played out is what you identified as, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Trump realignment scenario. A pretty significant set of gains that extend and you could argue complete this populist revolution that he began back in 2016. When I look at the map on the Times homepage that shows the differences between 2020 and tonight, it actually seems in a way to be bigger than that what Trump did, because that map shows that between those two elections, the country moved right, it would seem, across the board. And on top of that, that map shows pretty much nothing broke Kamala Harris's way. How did that happen based on what we know so far from the data?
On a spectrum between a close 2020 repeat and a realignment, I would put it somewhere in the middle. But yes, this is a decisive victory, and it's noteworthy that it was very broad. There are very few parts of the country where Harris ran as well as Joe Biden. There are very few demographic groups where Harris ran as well as Joe Biden. There were places that are traditionally liberal that swung, conservative places, Hispanic places, white working class.
Right.
Every kind of county swung towards.
And why
Donald
was
Trump.
that? Why was it different this time? I wonder, could it possibly be that you had a Democratic candidate that said we needed to be more Republican?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's saying that, yes, we do need to deport at least 11 million people. Because that's what Kamala Harris said. I think she had said something around 11 million.
Yep.
Um,
It's just so weird to me
Yeah.
that these guys are talking about this in very bland numbers and statistics and stuff like that, with no social psychology that could be brought into this scenario, where we can take it from, I don't know, let's say history in Germany of why people would want to vote more fascistic and right wing when they're lacking basic necessities, and why they would vote like that. It just seems like we, instead of bringing up these statistics and numbers and talking about it in a very biased, vague way, they could just bring up social history in the last 100 years and come up with a better explanation as to why Trump won in a landslide right now with Trump supporters or with the voters. Yeah.
Well, it's their refusal, because ultimately, a few of the people that are on this panel, I can't speak for all of them because I don't really know them that well. But at least the guy who's talking right now are water carriers for the Democratic Party. They carry the water for them.
Okay. That's I was wondering. I thought this was like some unbiased podcast where they just analyze things, but okay, that would make more sense as to why.
But I think I think the other guy, the guy who was cooking, I think he's a lot more leftist than he is a liberal.
Okay.
So
All right.
he was one of the people I was told to keep an eye on. I forget
Okay.
his name. I'll have to go back and look. But
All right. Let's watch that.
That says a lot about the deep-seated revulsion that was being expressed here at the status quo. This is very different to me than 2016, where there was this narrow Trump breakthrough among white college graduates that let him get over the top in the critical Midwestern battleground states by a hair. This is a much more comfortable and broadly based victory. And I do think it counts as the culmination of the sort of broader Trump era of elections. He started in 2016 with this narrow breakthrough, and now he has extended what had been a narrow coalition to something that is, hardly we're still, again, talking about a relatively modest victory, but one that is still fundamentally much more broadly based than it once was. And again, we've now changed what American politics is about in some way. We have a new political division in the country. And there are a lot of different people in demographic groups that previously did not support Donald Trump who appear to be receptive to different elements of that message.
Can you just explain what you mean when you, or any of you, when you say we're never going back?
Well, I think there's definitely a political realignment. For a long time, we had this sort of Obama era of politics where demographics would be destiny and a more diversifying nation would definitely go towards Democrats, and that was the belief. And we're seeing, granted it's still early, that is not what's necessarily going to happen.
yes, okay. I'm glad that you brought this up because this is an argument that I hear from a lot of people. And Jimmy, I'm not picking on you in particular.
What
but
did she
I've heard
say?
you say it. She was bringing up the fact that originally, like at one point, we had an Obama era idea of, destiny is the future, right? Like children are going to be our future. The younger demographics, diversity is going to help bring things to be more left and blah blah blah. But the past couple of elections now have proven that to be completely opposite.
Right.
And that's why I was just bringing up, it's something that I hear from a lot of people. Like I've heard it from you before, where it's like, oh well, people are going to be younger. All these younger people are going to come out and vote, et cetera, et cetera. But the unfortunate problem is that when people do grow up, they inherit a lot of political views, whether it's from their parents, whether it's from their grandparents, whether it's from aunts and uncles, cousins, friends, people at school, whatever, right? Ultimately, they inherit a certain political view.
Yep. You're right.
And the only political view that is at least reaching out to people in that age demographic and people who were even not old enough to vote is right-wing ideology, podcasts, and journalists and whatnot. They're the only people that are coming out saying, yeah, you know what? Things are messed up for you. Things aren't looking good for you. You're not getting that American dream that you were promised.
Yep. Those bro
very different appears to
podcasters.
be happening. And so we're entering, I sort of see it
Start
as
this
ending
drop
one
shipping company.
political era in terms of the politics and entering another one. But I think there's a larger, slightly more philosophical question as well, which is there was this sense that Trump was an aberration in some way, that he was a deviation from American politics, and his term and his win was a deviation. And all these things he did, be it, stoking January 6th or refusing to accept the results of the 2020 election, or even just how he talked about people. Those things are not an aberration in our politics. Those things are our politics now. And that's where I think the country is. And that, I think, is what a lot of people probably tomorrow morning are going to have to confront.
Nate, you just mentioned how much success Donald
We
Trump
wanted
had
it. We
with
asked
a
for this kind of
variety
politics.
of voting blocks that, as Lisa, you just pointed out, Democrats had long believed were going to remain loyal to them. But why?
But why? Why? Why did they believe that? That evidence has been
Well, we know
clear
the answer
about
to
the
that.
drop off for a long time, right? We've had 2012, we've had 2016, we've had 2020. We've actually had a lot of evidence to say that the demographic destiny undertone is one that is a faulty premise. The fact that they are holding on to the Obama era, in my opinion, is a racist assumption. I don't mean it in a capital R way, but I mean it in
a race-based assumption.
I mean, I think I would say lowercase racist. I would say that there is an assumption that it was a failure of imagination. that it couldn't be true.
Yeah, I hear you,
Ooh.
but I think
Oh,
there
he's
is a sense of
cooking,
like, yes,
dude.
we saw this drum
Whoa.
be coming. We saw that more people were identifying as Republicans in like all these polls. We saw that Democrats had moved towards the more conservative
No,
position.
and what he was saying, just to kind of like add on to what he was saying, is like they just have the assumption that they can just rely on the black vote because it's like, hey, who do you want to vote for? The people who have tried to help you, or the guy that is a racist?
Oh.
And they don't present anything that they're going to do for them. It's just like, well, you could either vote for me or vote for him. It doesn't become like, what do you expect of me? It's, well, you can either have it really, really be bad, or you could just
Yeah.
get it
And
unexpectedly.
and they fucking proved to him just last night that they would rather have it really, really bad than the empty fucking promises and
Yeah.
this fucking entitlement that the Democrats seem to fucking have with minority voters.
Yeah, well, they feel like, oh, well, we had fucking Nancy Pelosi and them come out in a dashiki and
Ugh,
do the Wakanda pose and shit like that. So like people love us,
fucking cringe
On
ass
issues
shit.
like immigration.
We
like,
saw that representation did not motivate
we
people
saw
of
that
color.
representation isn't enough. But at the same
You're saying
time,
having a black
yeah, people
candidate.
don't vote just on representation.
There's another half of this though, which is that
Mm.
Democrats
I-
lost sight of why.
Okay, I want to
they
ask
were
you,
with-
how do you feel about her comment that she just made? That
She's-
people don't vote on just mere representation anymore.
She's right. She's kind of fucking right. I think that we have this illusion that people do, but I don't think that we actually do. I think, you know what? No, see, that's because we were just talking about it this morning about a black woman president, and that's never gonna fucking happen, and that's that representation thing. So if I'm not even voting, and that's what I was thinking, how many other women out there are thinking that? And that's pretty much just voting for representation and not policies. Because you would think that people would want to. I mean, we were just looking. Florida fucking passed or getting rid or the abortion thing. So I mean, people are thinking about policy, but I don't know.
Well,
Maybe people are voting for representation, but the government itself doesn't. It doesn't really care about representation.
well, I think ultimately when it comes to representation, people just want to be represented when it comes to legislation that protects them
Hmm.
for who they are. I don't think necessarily people care who it comes from, right? Like you could put up any person, doesn't matter what their gender is, doesn't matter what their ethnicity, what their religion is. If there's somebody that will be effective and push through legislation that actually protects them and helps them, then that's who they'll go for because it directly impacts them.
Right.
Um, I ask you that because it's interesting, especially hearing it from a woman's perspective, because there's been a lot of blowback that has been talking and pointing out misogyny being a reason as to why Kamala Harris lost, or being one of the main reasons.
Right. And it's that saying that you fucking hate. I think it's a lot of us is just, we're able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Like we know that there is probably a slight misogyny, patriarchal thing about not allowing a woman to be president. But also at the same time, the Dems can't keep on giving us shitty ass candidates as well. So like it's like a 98 2%, 98% 2% of 98% of just shitty policies and 2% of women thinking, you know, is it men not allowing women or not wanting a woman to run kind of thing for sure.
Well,
Because it
and the
does. If we
reason
do, like you have to think about it too. Like as a female, as a woman, right now in 2024, minus all the shitty ass policies and the campaigns and shit like that that Hillary and Kamala did, minus the fact that no, as a woman, I wouldn't even want to vote for Hillary either. Like they're crappy candidates. As a woman, when is it our turn? You know,
yeah.
in America, when can it be our turn to at least just try? And that's where I
So,
think a lot of women have a problem with it.
so my follow-up question to that really quick would be, would you rather prefer it be a woman who comes into power and puts in that legislation, or a man who comes into power and puts in that same legislation?
I honestly depends on the person really, but in my own anecdotal perspective, like let's say Nikki Haley was running for office, there's no fucking way. Like, no, I don't care if she like had two vaginas down there and she was an
No, no,
extra
no. Oh, for
superwoman.
sure. No,
Like, fuck that,
people
you
like
know?
that. I'm talking about if there were a man and a woman who had the same policy that you preferred in legislation, things such, for example, they are for codifying Roe versus Wade
hmm
into law. Okay, that's one
hmm
of their main objectives. Would you still prefer the woman over the man, or would it be a situation where you don't necessarily care? It would come down to other issues on top of that.
I think initially I would want to choose the man over the woman just because of my biases. But if it came down to the nitty-gritty, like something like that wouldn't be I couldn't be a one policy voter, so it definitely boiled down to the one thing that I don't like about that person would be that one that I wouldn't vote for. And it wouldn't matter if it was the male or the female. But initially, yeah, absolutely. Like it's that trigger thing of like, fuck, give a woman a chance really quick. Okay, all right, I thought about it. Let's just talk. Okay, you know? But initially, yeah, absolutely. I would choose the woman.
Well, no, the reason too is
But you have to
Kamala
remember
didn't
too,
really
I'm
bring.
I'm more, level-headed and knowledgeable about politics and stuff. I'm pretty sure if you went out there and asked a normie, it would be a totally different answer.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, like, Kamala Harris never really did the identity politics, as people like to put it, with her campaign speeches, especially at least on the level that Hillary Clinton was in
I mean, not
2016.
not this time around, but remember in 2020, she was the one that was on the debate stage talking about the black girl on the bus, and I was that
Yes.
girl. So she
Yeah. No.
did
No. No.
do it a
No.
little.
She did do it, but
Okay, yes, you're right.
this election cycle, she did not, and there was a reason,
Yes.
because she at least had the awareness to know that identity politics shit isn't going to slide. Bernie Sanders was the epitome of it. What
Right.
Bernie Sanders did when he ran was, hey, let's focus on the bread and butter issues, right? Let's
Yep.
focus on how we can impact people's wallets and bank accounts. Let's make sure that we can make people feel better and more secure about their healthcare future, right? We need to make people feel more secure about their retirement, and we need to make people feel more secure about their housing. Those
Okay.
are bread and butter issues. If you can get people on that, they will fucking vote and vote and vote. They'll vote illegally for you if they can. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's how you engage your base.
Yeah. No,
And
you're fucking
the
right.
and the problem was, people even from the left tried attacking Bernie Sanders, said, "Oh, so you're just omitting everything else. You're just throwing all these communities under the bus." No, that's not his point, and that's not what he was saying. Because he brought up that those are communities that still need to be protected. However, the only way that you can actually assert any sort of power to gain effective change for anything, specifically communities that are marginalized, you have to get power and you have to have money. And
Mhm.
how do you do that? You build up the upper or the middle class.
Mhm. Mhm. No, you're right. Absolutely. Bernie definitely proved that an old white Jewish man can bring a big diverse set of people who really believe in him just by it was the way he talked. People would, try to trick question him with something that, was like drama or whatever. He just, no, let's talk about something else, and he would bring up a policy. And you're right. Like
Yeah.
that is actually proof that representation in a certain way, at least in the physical form, doesn't really matter. It's the representation policy and political wise that really gets people motivated to want to vote for you.
And we saw the difference, right? Because with Trump, the people that he lost vote wise it wasn't because of what we're talking about. It was just it was more so that they were just tired of hearing about bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were tired about not hearing about, well, kind of like what we were talking about, the bread and butter issues. They got tired of hearing about how it was, immigrants and trans people and, how much money he has and how big the crowd is and how much people lie about him. And it's just, it's always things that kind of, not to sound shit libby, but it's always things that just revolve around him and things that inflate his ego,
Mm-hmm.
right? But yeah, I
Yep.
think I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I
We,
just don't
there was,
see. I just don't see I just don't see that representation being as big a factor when it comes to like the candidate itself, more so what they do legislatively.
yeah, no, and I can definitely see that as well. Because I mean, like another point of proof of is Trump. Trump doesn't represent any of the people that are voting for him, but they like what he says and the policies that he wants because it's gonna quote unquote better the economy and put more money in their pockets. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that people want to say they want representation, but it's more of the policy. I think when they say they want representation, it's like movies and music and entertainment,
Maybe for some.
merch, marketing, stuff like that. But yeah, I think there was see the it's so interesting to see how this is going and how people don't even realize that they're kind of seeing like this slow kind of veer into like this end of capitalistic very like autocracy very like I hate saying fascistic because I don't want to like agree with the shit libs or anything, but kind of in that direction is
Well,
was
it
the
is fascism.
yeah, but what it was the 2016 campaign. You saw these like a left with Bernie and a right with Trump, this like uber like a revolutionary populistic movement. And we could have gone one of two ways. And we ended up choosing the right because the left Bernie got obviously taken down and stopped because of the Democratic Party. And it feels like we could have gone one of two ways with that. And because they did this populist thing in such a complete opposite ways that it could grab onto everybody's attention either way. But Bernie was so unique and so popular and his things were so caring, all that stuff. People really went over to Bernie, but then since Bernie got ruined, they still liked that outsider rhetoric, revolutionary, populistic thing. So now they're going over to Trump, and now we're starting to see kind of that veering to the fascistic right kind of movement now because of that. And we really had this like fork in the road in 2016 that we really fucked over and we went the wrong way.
Well, no, without a doubt. And I think we've kind of gravitated towards, austerity,
Yes.
especially with just you have so many conservatives that have tried coming back on like tort reform issues and talking about, budget spending and etc. And Trump has even started talking about it again, right? Like for a while he abandoned it, but it's something that's starting to hit again because money is a very big issue. And if you start talking about national debt, people start thinking about their debt. What the fuck are we going to do? How are we going to do it? If our own country can't pay their own debt, then how the fuck are we supposed to? So you'll see a lot of these austerity policies, and they're coming with Trump. Project 2025 has made that very much clear. We're going to be seeing cuts. Social Security is probably going to be gone. I think that's going to go. Medicaid, that's going to be gone. Public school budgets are going to be slashed.
Mm-hmm.
Art program's going to be gone. After school program's going to be gone. Things like Meals on Wheels, all these social safety nets are going to be completely gutted and removed, and it's just going to be replaced with tax cuts for people that are making above $400,000, and then it's going to be tax raises for people who make below that.
Yep. We're
That's
gonna
what we're heading
privatize it
towards.
all. Yep.
Yeah, and that's literally what we're heading towards. And the unfortunate thing is, and this is something I talked about too, leading up to the election, regardless if Harris won or Trump won, we're heading towards Project 2025 anyways, because it's a project that the Republicans have been working on for the past 30, 40 years.
Exactly. Yep.
It's not new.
Nope. It-
Democrats didn't want to say shit about it until like just now, when it's like, oh shit, we don't have a seat at the table after they told us we would.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Why did they lie to us? Republicans never lie.
Uh-huh.
Fuckers.
All right, let's finish watching this.
Voters like this in the first place.
Thank you. Preach.
And
which is
well, one reason that I think is worth mentioning is the economy and helping working people against the establishment and corporations. It was the Democrats who used to be the party that was advocating change, that was against the establishment, that could channel the emotions of a disaffected young person. Donald Trump is that candidate, and so they should in no way be surprised that they have lost those.
I just want to make sure I understand what I think you're all hinting at, which is that Donald Trump and the Republican Party have completed a journey in which they are the party of disruption. They are the party that assaults the establishment. They are the party that says not just to the white working class, but to the working class in a number of different demographic groups, including Black and Latino working class Americans, that we are your refuge from an unfair, broken system.
And I would only add, their ability to do that
Trump
was made
did what Bernie
easier
could have
by
been,
a
man.
Democratic Party who seeded.
Mm-hmm.
That's that fork in the road I was just talking about. Like that could have been in a positive way, in a beneficial for people way. Like Bernie could have done exactly what Trump is doing right now, but in a complete opposite, better for people way. Like it sucks hearing this like revolutionary populist movement that Trump is having because it was like right there at the tip of our fucking fingers and we let it slip.
Mm-hmm.
And now Trump's people get it.
It's not even that we let it slip; it was taken from us.
True.
We weren't even given the opportunity. I mean, Bernie was outperforming everybody, not just Democratic, but Republican too. He was outperforming everyone in every single demographic: men, women, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, everyone.
Yeah.
The mantle on that front.
Yeah, motherfuckers that were living in rural areas that were going to vote for him
was not on the ballot in 2020. It was Joe Biden, in my opinion. Like Joe Biden's refusal to do what he implied he would do in 2020 and transition to a different type of generation, allow Democrats to have a broader conversation about change, allow Democrats to be freed from the status quo. Is not what happened.
I'm glad somebody told me to watch this video because this dude is really good.
That Donald Trump completed this mass realignment among the working class. If we had a universe where the Democrats had a primary, where the Democrats nominated a candidate that was based around some set of ideas, and it was not tied to this administration so clearly and the status quo. But since that is not what happened, I think
he's just saying what I just said, but really smart.
To be the agents of change so much easier that I find it the biggest thing that has happened in this race. And I think speaks to what we're saying about what's happened over the last 3 months. The place that they were in before the candidate switch happened made it such that you could run a perfect race or whatever. And you are still playing on ground that brings you to 50-50. Because the biggest thing, in my opinion, that happened was they tied themselves to an unpopular administration and with it, the status quo.
That did not represent change.
And there was a lot of evidence that that was a bad idea.
I want to turn to what happened with women in tonight's election. It seemed, despite everything we're talking about here, like the Harris campaign was relying on women to save the Democratic coalition. And the view was suburban women, even moderate Republican women, post the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and given all of Donald Trump's character flaws, was going to put Kamala Harris over the edge, despite the fact that perhaps she didn't speak to and embody change in the way that so many other Americans wanted. Did those women not show up, or did they show up but it didn't matter because of all the other voters who showed up for Trump?
So it's a little hard to say at this point. Like men and women live together in all precincts, it turns out. So it's a little hard to separate that out. I do think we can say something about the power of abortion rights. You know, since Dobbs in 2022, that had been such a motivator for Democrats. And I think now, maybe even because of all the state referendums, you had a sense that voters could support both abortion rights and former President Trump. And that was different than what we had seen in the 2022 midterms. So I wonder if the power of that issue was a little diminished in some way.
That's interesting.
I would
Yeah.
also only add, like, and this is anecdotal, of course, but a lot of folks we met in our travels understood Donald Trump as having a different position on abortion than the rest of the Republican Party.
That's definitely true.
And one thing that Donald
Can you
Trump,
explain that?
in the last year and a half, he's
Distinction.
created distance from the most evangelical wing of Republicans. He has upset some of them. And I think we have to acknowledge, I think some of that worked, frankly.
In other words, people did not buy the idea that he was a true believer
Well, they
in the
never have.
opposition to
I mean,
abortion.
I guess
yeah,
I'm
they
not saying
never
that.
have.
I'm just
They
saying,
never
like,
have believed that.
the idea that abortion had to be placed top of your list because Republicans represented a existential threat to that right, I have had people articulate to me how that does not apply to Donald Trump. People have mentioned consistently that Donald Trump is different than other Republicans on abortion rights. Now, I would also say that I think there is some failure of imagination on behalf of voters about Donald Trump. Like, I think that's something that you can, that folks can have that feeling and it not be true, right? Like, he's still wrapped up in the conservative ecosystem that is anti-abortion.
I just think we have to acknowledge, since we're talking about gender, that in 2 of the last 3 presidential races, a woman running against Donald Trump lost. This race meant a lot, as Hillary Clinton's campaign against Trump meant a lot to women.
Yeah, and I wonder what happens now, right? What we saw in 2016 was obviously the Women's
This
March,
is a
and
point
everyone
that you
got
had
out
brought
with
up.
their hats, and then you saw this flourishing of the Me Too movement that prompted this really public and private reckoning around gender and gender equity. And then you saw all these women run and succeed. You know, in 2018, you had record-breaking numbers of women elected to Congress. In 2019, you had 6 women, an unprecedented number, run for the presidency. So much so that Biden, you know, promised to pick a woman. He selected Harris and put her in as vice president. And now, after all of that, this movement that seemed like it was building towards the White House, in fact, it wasn't. And I just don't think anyone's going to be out marching with their little pink hats this time around. I think the reaction will be something different, but I don't know. I don't know what it will be.
I agree. This is one of the best questions about what happens next is what is the visceral emotional response from what 8 years ago was called the resistance, but
Yeah.
broadly speaking, from liberals and college graduates, the sort of groups that have powered democratic successes. And
You want to know our visceral? You want to know what our visceral response is? Is fuck this shit. I'm going inside. I'm grabbing my crochet and a book, and I'm fucking done. I'm done.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I would think that, but I'm starting to think with all of the blue mega conspiracies that are coming out now, I think it's going to be not necessarily violent, but very like high levels of animosity and very like resentful and hateful rhetoric.
I know, and I'm actually, I apologize to all the men in my life right now. I might be a little bit mean about men, but no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's our fault.
It's
every
all
man's
your fault.
It's every man's fault. You know
That's
what?
right.
Just because of that, I'm voting for Donald Trump now. It says every fucking right wing grifter. Like, dude, I was leftist, but then somebody bullied me, so then I became a right winger.
Yep.
Because that makes sense.
Yep. No, you're right though. I mean, after that visceral response of like, I'm fucking done. I give up. I don't think that it's gonna be violence, but like you're right, that hatred. But I'm hoping this is where my hope comes in, and I'm trying not to be nihilistic. That's gonna get us to start organizing somehow. We've got to start figuring out a way to fucking do something. Like we've got to take this anger and instead of just giving up, we've got to do something positive with this. Like we can't just let this momentum of whatever we had as women getting into higher offices to just go away. Like it like during women's rights and stuff. Like I'm tired of these waves of this thing where it just comes in and out, in and out, in and out. Like I would want to, in the long term, want to keep that momentum going of getting more women involved in things, especially in politics. Like that's the number one thing that they teach young girls when they get, if they get into politics, is that women, there's not a lot of women who do this kind of that get into this stuff because it's not really, they're not welcomed. And it, yeah. Well, I'm the kind of person that would do something like that. I mean, I've already ran fucking teaching how or teaching young girls how to run for office in the future when they turn 18 and stuff like that. So I already know how much work this is going to be and what needs to be done. But I just don't feel like we should lose that momentum. I really don't. And I know it's disheartening with this second time around. And I just feel like women
So
are just wanting to give up, but we can't.
no, and I think what I'm hopeful to see, and it's going to be very important to what the eventual outcome is going to be. Um, I'm hopeful to see a lot more of coalition building amongst groups that are extremely vulnerable
Hmm.
under a Donald Trump presidency. So, I mean that's a very large umbrella, but specifically, women, people who are Arab, Muslim, the LGBTQ community,
Yep.
um, workers, laborers, union members.
Agreed.
I think if there was ever a time, and I was bringing this up even before this election, if there was ever a time for a third party or a new party rather to emerge, I think now is that time because there are so many demographics who are looking for not just a leader but for a party that will represent them.
Hmm.
They don't want just a president who's not going to be able to get legislation through. They want protection
Hmm.
by rule of law.
Yep.
And I'm really hopeful that there is a group that is congregating right now and allowing for the grievances of each group to be heard, listened, and instated into their mission, right? Like, this is something that we're going to work towards to try to better. Nobody
Right.
has to feel like they're being left out or that their issues are being put on the back burner. It's understanding that, hey, you want to be able to get rights for your your body autonomy. I want to get rights for marriage. I want to get rights for this. Okay, you know what? We got to make sure that we help you out, and then when we need help, you're going to be able to help us out, and so on and so forth. We're going to continue to just help one another out because we can't do it alone. We
Right.
can't just approach it from looking at anybody else who's not part of our demographic as the enemy. We
Yep.
have to look at everyone as potential allies and try to bring them under our wing.
Yep. So I'm really excited to learn about this Socialist Party people from yesterday and the Socialist Party to see if they're legit. Like this is actually something that could be what we've been looking for.
100%. And I
Yeah.
mean, you and I have had multiple conversations about how important local politics is,
Right.
just for numerous reasons. It builds reputation and character for your party. People can know whether or not there's something to depend on.
Hmm.
And you can impact people's lives very quickly.
Yep.
Uh, it's a no brainer, and that's why you and I used to actually have little headbutts every once in a while because you'd be talking about the Green Party, and my problem is that in a lot of cities, whether it's a major city or not, there are plenty of positions that are being ran unchallenged, and there's no Green Party candidate that's trying to challenge anyone, whether it be for judge, whether it be for comptroller, whether it be for coroner, whether it be for treasurer, whether it be for whatever the case is.
Hmm.
And you have to get those positions. You have to get on the school board. You have to get on city council. You have to get those positions.
Right.
You
Agreed.
have to.
Yep. Absolutely.
What's going on, California? How you doing?
What up, California fools?
So, hey,
Welcome back.
California, you remember yesterday when somebody came into our stream and was talking about the blue tsunami, and I was like, "Yo, be careful. I don't think that's gonna happen." You remember that, California? I just want to make sure because I was talking to Jimmy about that, and I just want to make sure I wasn't having a fever dream.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
Dude, the blue tsunami became the red pool of blood from The Shining. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
That shit was
yeah.
fucking dunzos.
Yep. Yep.
It was bad. It was
Yep.
bad. It was bad.
How are
It was
you doing today,
bad.
California? Yeah, how do you feel about the elections today? Oh, wait, so what were we just talking about? Because I swear I had something in my head and then I forgot about it, but I can't remember what we were just talking about.
Remember
Fuck
the
it.
red wedding from a couple years ago? Oh my God, yes, that is a great comparison. That is such a great comparison.
Are you talking about the Game of Thrones red wedding?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what California had put in chat.
Nice. Yeah. You feel great, no anxiety? Really? So does that mean you're a white man? That's it. You guys, 4 years. It's on. It's on. 4 years of me calling you all white, privileged men. It's gonna be great.
Oh,
I cannot
yeah.
wait. Ay. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do it. I was just joking.
Ay. I will
Exactly.
vote
There you go,
for
California.
Donald Trump.
You know me. It's on like
Do you guys
Donkey
have
Kong.
$1 for chocolate? I got you, dude.
Ooh, what?
I got you, dude.
Wait, where do you
Hell
find
yeah.
chocolate for $1?
Family Dollar, Dollar General.
Yeah, but isn't it usually like the chocolate's all white because it's been sitting on the shelf for like 5 years?
Yeah, but it's chocolate. You can't be picky. It's $1. What the fuck is wrong with you? No, but we
Okay.
were talking about ultimately like representation and
Okay, yeah, no, I don't even remember.
okay. Well,
I forgot. It's done.
Midterms and special elections. I don't.
you
I
need a
personally
notebook.
don't
I'm a
see how
Middle
it could be the
Eastern man.
same. Having him win again
You're an
and like this
Australian.
is going to hit very differently. And there's also a sort of natural exhaustion, I think, to this sort
Oh, I
of
feel so much better. I just had an
response to
In-N-Out
Trump over
burger.
time that
Oh,
I
it's so
felt, I
amazing.
personally thought I observed in this
Nice.
campaign, and it was reflected
Miracle.
in the data as well, in terms of lower voter
And
registration.
you know what, California, I totally get that because in a sense,
Be the
my
at a
lack of reaction, I guess, is well, I still have a really dramatic reaction because I'm pissed off, but like, it's more so like I seen it coming. I've seen the direction that America was heading into, so it's not really surprising that people wanted to side with an authoritarian.
It's just so
Because might is
weird.
right.
On January 6th.
Like all of you
His
guys are just
convictions
like,
in the
nah,
hush
it's
money scheme,
whatever.
not
But
to
I
mention the
swear, like
tax
even
fraud.
my own daughter came out
His
here. Like girls are like,
increasingly
how are you?
No, I'm
Are
not
you
saying
okay?
it's whatever.
race-baiting
I'm
But
not
it,
saying it's
we saw
whatever.
at the end of this
okay, well,
campaign
like
at
the
some of
I feel
his
great, no
rallies
anxiety.
as
It's
his
like you guys, like the
single
guys
biggest
are almost
vulnerability.
nonchalant about this, and the
And
girls are all over here in the
I
corner,
want
like,
to
did you know what's
understand
going
in
on? Are you guys
your
okay?
mind
Are we okay?
if
Like
a
I'm like
victory here
looking up
means
like
that voters
suicide
were looking
hotlines
past
and
those
shit
things,
like that
or
for
if,
people, and
as in
we got
2016,
California over here.
obviously
It's
the
like I
facts on the
feel
ground are
great.
different. We need to see this as part of the appeal of what voters liked about Donald Trump this time around.
I think that
No, I just
voters have never
it's
liked
not that
Donald
it's
Trump.
like oh whatever.
But I have to say he's a
Uh-huh.
lot
It's
more
just
popular today
it's just the
than he was in
shock.
2016.
Like
2016, you know,
obvious,
his
like I said, like
unfavorable
I'm still
ratings,
very
his
upset.
unfavorable
It's just like the
ratings,
shock
30%,
Right.
35%.
and any anxiety is
Now
it's not there
close
because like you know
50%. A lot
we
of
already
people
know what to expect
didn't
with
like him
Trump,
8 years
right?
ago.
Like I already
They've
know
come
how bad
around
it's
to
gonna
him.
be, so like my anxiety
That
isn't up because it's like okay,
is
I already know what's
partly
gonna happen.
because
Like
I think he ran
abortion
a
rights are
more
gonna be
disciplined
completely
campaign
taken
than he
away
did 8 years
if you
ago.
live in a southern
I think
state
it's
or some
partly
place
because
that's not blue.
he's
Your
become
your
normalized,
rights
for
as a
lack of
woman
a
are gonna
better
be
word,
completely
something
stripped
we're all
away.
accustomed to, and he has
Right.
positive attributes
You
as
know,
well, whether
fill
it's
in
his
the blank for
with his
everything
perceived
else.
economic stewardship, or that people think he's funny and so on, and that he's not politically correct, and those
The
combination of
only
things can
election I
lead
paid
someone to come
election
around to
to.
him and look
Ooh.
past his
The only
liabilities. That
election
said,
I paid
I
election
still
to
don't
was
think that
2020.
on net
Okay.
Trump is a strong
Attention.
candidate. I think that
I
the
know. I was
balance
just
of his
kidding.
strengths and weaknesses at best cancel out and
That
may
was cool. I
well
almost
be
thought it said
on net
erection. The only
worse than a
election I
different
paid
Republican candidate.
erection
It's not
to.
saying
An
that
erection
everyone's the
too?
same
Yeah,
way,
like dude was
but
really
I
he
think
was
that
voting hard in the booth.
Republicans
You
have
That's
understand?
probably
right.
left
That's
votes on the
right.
table by having Donald Trump as their frontrunner, even though someone like Donald Trump is the only person who could have turned the Republican Party into what it has become.
Mm-hmm.
But does
In
the Republican
2016, I
Party
don't think you.
want
I
it
thought
to
it was
be
very
what
easy
it's
to argue
become?
that it was as much about
Yes.
Hillary Clinton as it was about Donald Trump.
Okay.
I got a big group
Okay.
of boomers that are Republicans that can disagree with you, but they're boomers.
Yeah, I mean that's version that's the Bush era conservatives.
Yeah, it's just so crazy
And
to
that
me
shit's
knowing
dead.
that once these fucking boomers, these like Republican boomers are all dead and gone, the new Republican Party are going to be these like broski Andrew Tate red cap wearing college like bros. I'm just ugh. That's going to be the Republican
Women are
Party.
bitches.
It's
Yeah,
like
that's
Terry
gonna be
Crews and Idiocracy. Like that's going to be the Republican Party.
Kristen Camacho.
Yeah, oh my God, it's literally gonna turn into that. Those guys are insufferable.
Yeah, again, to go back to what they're saying in this video, it makes you think back to where people always used to be, man, I can't wait till these fucking old Republicans die. Like, maybe not, because at least like they weren't insufferable, right? You could still have Thanksgiving at Mima's house because she wasn't talking about how, you know, migrants are eating cats and dogs and committing crimes.
Right, and you just push her and you just roll her wheelchair into the room like, all right, Grandma, you need a nap. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're fucking
get the fuck.
right.
Yeah, but when before, you know, like even like Reagan-esque, and that's the other thing about the Republican Party, right? Like even Reagan and George H.W. Bush, they are completely outflanked by the modern Republican Party. Because if you go back to the original presidential debate between those two, actually, you want me to pull that up real quick?
Yeah.
Because I think that is very important. Let's see. Let's go. No, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, I think it's the 1992 debate.
Record number of black women will serve in the Senate. All these election firsts when we come back.
There was this kid in 7th grade who called erections erosions. Fun fact. Nice.
Yes, my name is Steve.
I'm running for erection too. Jimbo the Bimbo 2025. There you go.
There we
Boom.
go.
And I'm
Okay,
running for
here we go.
erection, you guys, okay? Erection.
Erection.
David Grossberg, and I'd like to know, do you think the children of illegal aliens should be allowed to attend Texas public schools free, or do you think that their parents should pay for their education?
Who are you addressing that to?
I think you're first in this.
He was looking right at you. I said he was. Look, I'd like to see something done about the illegal alien problem that would be so sensitive and so understanding about labor needs and human needs that problem wouldn't come up.
Whoa, what's that? A Republican who's coming out saying, hey, buddy, you don't want immigrants here? What about our labor force? What about the fact these people are fleeing and trying to better their lives and stay alive? A Republican saying that. We can't even get fucking Kamala Harris to say this.
But today, if those people are here, I would reluctantly say I think they would get whatever it is that they're, what the society is giving to their neighbors. But the problem has to be solved. The problem has to be solved.
What?
Because
Wait, a Bush talking about systemic issues?
Some kinds of labor that I'd like to see legal, we're doing two things. We're creating a whole society of really honorable